Borders define our world. They show us where one country ends and another begins. They mark the territory controlled by different groups. But borders are not eternal. They shift and change over time, reflecting the ebb and flow of power, conflict and cultural exchange. Throughout history, empires have risen and fallen, redrawing the map of the world. Wars have been fought, treaties signed and revolutions ignited, all leaving their mark on the lines that divide us. Understanding these changes helps us understand the world we live in today. This is a journey through 1,000 years of world history, a whirlwind tour of how the world we know came to be. Buckle up, it's going to be a fascinating ride. In the year 1000, the world was a tapestry woven from powerful empires and struggling kingdoms. In the east, the mighty Byzantine Empire, heirs to the legacy of Rome, held sway over the Mediterranean's eastern shores. Their capital, Constantinople, bustled with trade and culture. Further east, the Islamic caliphates, stretching from Spain to India, fostered a golden age of learning and scientific advancement. The Islamic world was a beacon of knowledge, preserving ancient texts and making groundbreaking discoveries in mathematics and astronomy. Across Europe, smaller kingdoms jostled for power. From the nascent kingdoms of England and France to the Holy Roman Empire in the heart of Europe, the stage was set for centuries of conflict and change. The 13th century saw the rise of an empire unlike any other, the Mongol Empire. This vast empire, which would become the largest contiguous land empire in history, began with the unification of the Mongol tribes under a single, formidable leader. From the steppes of Central Asia, Genghis Khan united Mongol tribes and unleashed them upon the world. His vision and military genius transformed a collection of warring tribes into a disciplined and unstoppable force. His horsemen rode east and west, conquering vast swathes of Asia and striking fear into the hearts of their enemies. The Mongol warriors, known for their exceptional horsemanship and archery skills, were able to cover great distances quickly, often catching their enemies by surprise. The Mongol conquests reshaped the political landscape. Entire kingdoms fell before their might, and new political entities emerged in the wake of their destruction. The Mongol Empire's influence extended from the Korean peninsula to Eastern Europe, creating a new world order. The Silk Road, a vital trade route connecting East and West, came under their control, facilitating cultural exchange and trade. Under Mongol rule, the Silk Road flourished, allowing for the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies between distant lands. Though known for their brutality, the Mongols were surprisingly tolerant rulers, allowing religious freedom and promoting trade within their vast empire. They established a system of communication and trade that connected the East and West like never before, fostering an era of unprecedented cultural exchange. Meanwhile, in Europe, the Crusades raged. These religious wars, initiated by the Latin Church, aimed to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim control and had far-reaching consequences for the continent. Fueled by religious fervor, Christian armies marched east to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim control. The Crusades were marked by intense battles, sieges, and a complex interplay of political and religious motivations. These holy wars had a profound impact, reshaping the balance of power in the Mediterranean and leading to increased trade and cultural exchange between Europe and the East. The Crusades also brought new knowledge and ideas back to Europe, influencing the continent's cultural and intellectual development. Section 4. Across the Oceans, 1500 to 1700. The 15th century witnessed a new era of exploration as European powers, driven by a thirst for wealth and knowledge, set sail across uncharted seas. This period marked the beginning of global interactions on an unprecedented scale, with explorers venturing into unknown territories, mapping new lands and establishing trade routes that would change the world forever. Christopher Columbus's voyage in 1492 opened the door to the Americas, forever changing the course of history. His journey, sponsored by Spain, was initially aimed at finding a new route to Asia, but instead led to the discovery of a vast new continent rich with resources and opportunities. European powers, hungry for land and resources, established colonies in the Americas, Africa, and Asia, These colonies became crucial sources of wealth and power as European nations competed fiercely to expand their empires and control valuable trade routes. This age of colonialism brought about profound consequences. The establishment of colonies led to the exploitation of natural resources and the subjugation of indigenous peoples, fundamentally altering the social, economic, and political landscapes of the colonized regions. Indigenous populations were decimated by disease and warfare, their cultures disrupted and often destroyed. The arrival of Europeans brought with it new diseases to which the indigenous peoples had no immunity, leading to catastrophic population declines. The transatlantic slave trade, a brutal chapter in human history, flourished, forcibly transporting millions of Africans to work on plantations in the New World. This inhumane trade was driven by the demand for labor to cultivate cash crops such as sugar, tobacco, and cotton, which were highly profitable for European colonizers. The wealth extracted from these colonies fueled the rise of European powers, but the seeds of resentment and rebellion were sown, setting the stage for future conflicts and struggles for independence. The exploitation and oppression experienced by the colonized peoples would eventually lead to movements for liberation and the reshaping of global power dynamics. Section 5. Empires crumble, nations rise, 1800 to 1900. The 19th century witnessed the rise of nationalism and the yearning for self-determination. Across the Americas, colonies rose up against their European masters. The American Revolution, ignited by the desire for independence, inspired others to fight for their freedom. In Latin America, Simón Bolívar and other revolutionaries led the charge against Spanish rule, establishing new nations and redrawing the map of South America. The Industrial Revolution, which began in Britain, fueled a global power shift. European nations, armed with new technologies and ideologies, extended their empires, carving up Africa and Asia in the scramble for Africa. However, the seeds of nationalism continued to grow, laying the groundwork for future struggles for independence in the 20th century. Section 6. A World Ablaze, 1900 to 2000. The 20th century was marked by unprecedented conflict and upheaval. It was a time when the world saw the rise and fall of empires, the birth of new nations, and the relentless march of technological progress. The century began with a sense of optimism, but soon descended into chaos and destruction. Two devastating world wars engulfed the globe, redrawing borders and reshaping the geopolitical landscape. The First World War, often referred to as the Great War, was a conflict of unprecedented scale and brutality. It involved many of the world's great powers and resulted in significant loss of life and property. The First World War, triggered by a complex web of alliances and nationalist tensions, led to the collapse of empires and the birth of new nations. The Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, Russian and German empires all fell, giving rise to new countries and altering the political landscape of Europe and the Middle East. The Second World War, even more destructive than its predecessor, saw the rise of totalitarian regimes and the horrors of the Holocaust. This war was marked by significant events such as the invasion of Poland, the Battle of Britain, and the D-Day landings. The war ended with the use of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ushering in the nuclear age. In the war's aftermath, the world found itself divided once more, this time by the ideological conflict of the Cold War. The Iron Curtain descended across Europe, separating the communist East from the capitalist West. This period was characterized by a tense standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union, each vying for global influence. The United States and the Soviet Union, the two superpowers, engaged in a decades-long struggle for global dominance, shaping the destinies of nations and fueling proxy wars across the globe. From the Korean War to the Vietnam War and numerous conflicts in Africa and Latin America, the Cold War's impact was felt worldwide. The latter half of the 20th century witnessed the collapse of European colonialism. The winds of change swept across continents as colonized nations sought to break free from the yoke of imperial rule. This period saw a wave of decolonization, with countries in Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean gaining independence. Across Africa and Asia, nations fought for and won their independence, reclaiming their sovereignty and redrawing the map once more. Leaders like Mahatma Gandhi in India, Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, and Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam became symbols of this struggle for freedom and self-determination. However, the legacy of colonialism continued to cast a long shadow, influencing political and economic realities in the newly independent nations. Many of these countries faced significant challenges, including economic instability, political corruption, and social strife, as they navigated their newfound independence and sought to build a better future for their people. Section 7. Echoes of the Past, 2020 and beyond. As we entered the 21st century, the world found itself grappling with the legacies of the past. Borders, once drawn by the whims of empires and the devastation of war, continued to shape global power dynamics. Conflicts over territory, resources, and ideology continued to erupt, a stark reminder of the enduring impact of historical events. The rise of globalization, while connecting the world in unprecedented ways, also brought new challenges. From climate change to economic inequality, the issues facing humanity transcended national boundaries, requiring global cooperation and understanding. By studying the past, by tracing the lines on the map and understanding how they came to be, we can better navigate the complexities of the present and build a more just and equitable future.